particularly for those of you who are new, I just kind of want to run through some of the key ideas that you can use to turn a good video conference into a really outstanding one. And we have an outstanding guest speaker today, so I want this one to be a really outstanding experience for everyone. The first point is a technical one. You have to mute your mic when you're not speaking. That's because the system recognizes who's speaking, and if mics are unmuted, we get echoes, we get loops, we get feedback, and it all becomes very difficult to understand. When you come up to speak, please begin by introducing yourself. Say, hello, my name is, okay, and it'd be great if we can start to use one another's names by the end of today's VC, I hope. And when you've finished, say thank you, just as a kind of signal that you've finished and you're handing over to somebody else. When you speak, speak from the heart. Don't speak from a script, okay, because it's really important that we hear from you, your authentic voice, because this is a great opportunity for us to share our ideas and feelings and thoughts together. The most important skill in any video conference is to listen carefully. Listening is the most important skill. You need to listen very carefully to our guest. You need to listen very carefully to the other school, but you also need to listen very carefully to one another. Because sometimes people we're sitting next to will say something and you'll think, well, actually, that's only half the story. I need to fill the rest in. So if you think that, you can say, well, my friend has said this, but I want to add something. But even more importantly than that, if someone says something that you disagree with, you can say, my friend has said this, but I think something else. Because you are only here to represent yourself as an individual. You're not here to represent your country or your school or your faith community or whatever it happens to be. You're here to represent you, which means that your individual opinions are precious and valuable, and we want to hear them. Okay? So, as we go through today's VC, I'm really looking forward to hearing from everybody, or certainly as many people as we possibly can. And I'd like to kick off by inviting Mohamed to tell us a little bit about his work, what he does, why he does it. And while he's talking about that, I want everyone to be listening really carefully and thinking, what do I want to ask? What more do I want to know about? What kinds of ideas is he talking about that I want to explore? What resonates with you? So it'll be really interesting to see the response questions and reflections you have at the end. So without any further ado, as we're running very late, I'm going to hand over to Mohamed, and we'll hear from him for a few minutes, and then we'll take some questions. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Hello, my name is Mohamed. My real name is Mohamed Ahmed. I am from Oaxaca. No, just kidding. No, actually, I'm from Minnesota, and there's an issue going on. If you watch the TV, it's called extremism and the values of extremism. And this is based on religious extremism. And they're mostly coming from my community, which is a Muslim community. So we sat down and we said, what can we do? I mean, our governments are doing something, humanity is doing something, but what can we do in terms of people-to-people outreach, in terms of people-to-people communication? And we figured out that what we got to do is we got to do a counter-narrative. Now, what's a narrative? A narrative is a story, a figure, a thinking process that is laid out. And what we're trying to do is create a counter-narrative, meaning that we're going to lay out a thinking strategy to go ahead and counter the narrative of extremism. The narrative of extremism is one built on political violence to promote their cause, and also it is built on a philosophical thinking and philosophical understanding. And with the extremists, especially from the Islamic areas, they use religion. And religion is not neutral, meaning that you can find what you want to support your cause with in the Quran. And we found that within my religion, Islam, there is a lot of evidence that promotes anti-extremism. And we started promoting those teachings the same way they promote some of the teachings to promote extremism. And the goal is to go ahead and say we will compete for minds and hearts. We've reached over 1 million people on social media. I've spoken to over 15,000 kids here in Minnesota. First time speaking to people internationally. And our goal is simple: storytelling. Why do we tell a story? Well, if you look at every single revolution that happened in this world, it starts with a story. And once that story becomes mainstream, you achieve your goals. And our goal is to promote 3 principles. The first principle is a principle of peace. As Muslims, we greet each other with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you. That's our international known standard of greeting. So peace is a fundamental part of Islam. The second principle we promote is democracy. Why democracy compared to other forms of government? Because there is respect and dignity for minorities. There is freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom to associate, and the right to have political opinions different than the mainstream opinion. This is a fundamental for human progress and the human spirit to progress. And the third principle we promote is anti-extremism. We basically go against extremist thinking. We don't believe in it, we don't believe in political violence, and we don't believe in recruitment of others into political violence. So we try to stop the recruitment process. That is all you need to know about average Mohammed. I'll say thank you for now.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. Actually, a lot of information there, a lot of ideas, and we're really interesting to see what people want to know about, what they want to explore in a bit more depth. So, my suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, is that we maybe take 3 questions or 3 reflections from each school, and this could be something that you want to know more about or something that inspired you in what you heard. So, I think probably it would be fairest to start with the students in the United States because they've been with us for a little while and they've been very patient, and I'm sure that they have good questions that they would like to ask. So I'm going to open it up to students in the US, and perhaps we could hear from 3 or 4 people with questions there. Then we'll let Mohamed answer them, and then we'll go to Mexico. Okay? Thank you.
So do it go right here?
Yes, sit there.
Right there.
Introduce yourself. Say, my name is.
Hi, my name is Naomi. I had one question for Mohamed. Is there a way that we as students can combat extremism even though we necessarily aren't really maybe religious or don't have those certain religious views? Oh, thank you.
Great question. Should we hear from another couple of students? Let's get 2 or 3 questions and then we'll get Mohamed to answer them. So who else has a question or a reflection they'd like to share from the US? Thank you.
Now we're going to speak on it in big boy voice. Okay, so sit down, say, hi, my name is. Hi, my name is.
Hi, my name is Rach. I don't really have a question, but I do have a personal reflection. As my beliefs, I believe that we all have like a certain purpose in this world, and the certain purpose is to like find our destiny and find like our path to who we are in life. And I believe that the belief here, like the belief in anti-extremism, is very like powerful in the way we like see like other parts of the world where like Muslims like being like attacked like just because like they believe in like the way a Muslim should act, and the way a Muslim should act, and it's just to be themselves and like to like believe in like who they are and what they like what they like their character pretty much, and that's pretty much. And I don't have a certain belief, but like for Christian or like any Muslim beliefs, but I believe that what you're doing is very very emotional for and very powerful, like and yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Adrian? Say hi, my name is.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and considering that
Mohammed's platform requires the First Amendment, which enables freedom of speech and expression. When should there be restrictions to freedom of speech and expression, considering that these same people who are committing extremism are expressing themselves? Thank you.
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. In fact, all three of you have got some really good points there. And I think when we've heard, I see we have one more person, when we've heard from this young lady and then we've taken Mohammed's responses, I would like to return to that freedom of speech question and throw it open to both schools and see what everyone's got to say about that, because I think that's very interesting. Sorry, please carry on.
Okay, so hi, I'm Sam, and I was wondering, what do you think caused these extremist groups to pervert their religion in such a way? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mohammed, over to you. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, you got questions. I love it. I love it. That's how we learn. Let's start with Naomi. She says, combating extremism. You don't belong to the religion. You don't have to belong to the religion. You have to be a human being. Any human being who can think rationally and think logically should be against extremism. Extremism comes in the forms of intolerance. You should be tolerant. That's how you combat extremism within your life. What that means basically is accepting to disagree with others fundamentally. That is the most essential part of our democratic principle, agreeing to disagree. You may live a different way. As long as it causes me no harm, I have no problem with you living that way. This is Thomas Jefferson in America. He said, it matters not what you believe in, as long as it does me no harm. So it's the same thing. We're living in a Jeffersonian democracy in America. We are very blessed. It's a great country. And the people who founded it put a lot of foundation into it. And one of the foundation is basically we agree to disagree. We agree that you can live your life the way you want to. We can't force our way onto you, but you should not be able to force your way onto us. Now, when it comes to combating extremism, it could be of faith, it could be of skin color, of racial tones, or it could be of other homophobia or things along those sides. Well, the goal is to go ahead and say, look, we need tolerance. If you are tolerant and you learn to accept others and accept their diversity, you've gone a long way in combating extremism. The question from Mark, when it comes to finding a purpose and a destiny, well, the beautiful part is you live in America. In America, you can be anybody you want to be, anything you want to be. Nobody will tell you any different. That's the beauty of our democracy. That's why I promote democracy. Because if you live in a democracy, that's the fundamental rule. You choose your own path. Your destiny is charted by you, because in democracies, the fundamental right belongs to the individual. The individual is the supreme command structure within our democratic principles. And this individual has a right to chart their destiny, to have their liberties, and to also chart their forward life. And regarding the First Amendment, restrictions to freedom of speech, well, this is something I made a message on. One of the messages I made on was when Charlie Hebdo got attacked in France. They did satirical comments about my noble prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now, Muhammad, peace be upon him, is my prophet. We love him dearly. More than anything else in the Muslim world, we really revere him. It's like to the Catholics in Mexico, the Guadalupe, or Jesus Christ to the Christians. Or so insulting Muhammad is insulting all of us. But we don't want these people to be killed for exercising their freedom of speech. So what did we say about that speech? Well, we promoted to the Muslim community the concept of propagating your speech, meaning that exercise your freedom of speech. You see, Charlie Hebdo people exercise their satirical speech, and they insulted my prophet. That is their right within the freedom of speech to do that under our democratic laws. But then again, it is also your right to go ahead and say, you know what, that is wrong, but we prefer to build more bridges within our communities. We prefer to respect each other more, and more importantly, it is better if we can respect each other's deity and religions, and even those who don't have religion, and respect each other. That goes a long way towards building this humanity than insulting each other or making fun of each other. Now, in terms of restrictions of freedom of speech because the extremists are using freedom of speech? Well, I don't know. You see, once we start that process, who can stop the government from stopping you from saying what you're saying if they don't agree with it? You see, there's that question. Now, we believe in democracy, and for over 200 years, well, our speech has been free. Should we start restricting it now? And then who decides what we're going to restrict? And till where do we go with these restrictions? How far do we go with it? Does it mean people of different political opinions should not have free speech, even though they have a right to it? Now, that's a very slippery slope. I say we live up to a democracy. Let our constitutional rights be there for us, your generation, and the generations to come. Thank you. The last question, causes of perversion. What do you think causes religious extremism? First is conditioning. People who are growing up without opportunity to secular education like you, basically don't have access to secular education, and all they get is non-secular education, are able to be molded to become what they're trying to produce. So access to education is very important, fundamentally. And that opens up the world, because a book does wonders for the mind. It does wonders. It opens up the whole world to you. Opening up a science book or a geography book or a book on liberal arts, that opens up your mind and opens up to accept others. The second thing is political discontent. There's a lot of misalignment with this globalized world, and people are getting confused about their identity, meaning that what identity should I become? My name is Mohamed. In America, I'm a black man, I'm an African, I'm a Muslim. I am also, depending on what political view I go with, a member of one political party or another. But I'm also a father with 4 children. I'm also a corporate employee. I work for a corporation. Now, at any given time, one of those identities will reflect me, and I will use that identity. Now, what happens with extremists is they picked one identity at war with every other identity, meaning that they refuse to accept our diversity, the reality of ourselves. Now, once we start accepting ourselves as multiple people, a pluralistic society, guess what? We've gone a long way towards shooting down extremism. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. That's some amazing answers there. I'm going to go over now to the students in Mexico and see if we can hear from 3 or 4 people there with their questions or reflections. Thank you very much.
Hello? Hello, my name is Andrea, and earlier you were talking about communication and stories and how it's important to communicate with other people. Do you personally have a story that you feel is important to tell or to have people listen to? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alex, and here in Occidental world we have a very bad image about Islam, and I think it's basically because our values are Christian values. So I think that a problem can be solved, this problem of misunderstanding Islam can be solved by knowing our similarities instead of knowing our differences. So I would like to know what is the role of Isa, I think it's pronounced, that is Jesus Christ in the Quran. So I really want to know what's the role of Isa, what's the role of the Virgin Mary, because here in Occidental world are 2 images about what is Christianity, and if we understand that we have more similarities than more differences, I think that a problem can be solved. So I really want to know this role, which is the importance, is it important for Muslims, it's not important, so knowing what's about these 2, with Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary, I think that a problem can be solved. Thank you.
Can we hear from one more student in Mexico, please?
Hello. Hello. Hi. My name is Andrea as well, and I want to know what's the concept of evil in the Islam religion, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, you guys are also going in for the heavy-duty questions straight away as well. So, Mohamed, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you.
Well, those are good questions. The first question was asked by Andrea is, what is an important story to tell? Our humanity. Our humanity is an important story to tell. That basically, when we shed off labels, and when we shed off our hate, and when we shed off our differences, and accept that we're going to be different, but there's a lot we have in common. The basic things we need in life is not that complicated. For us is a good job, family, healthcare, education, opportunity. These are fundamentally things that everyone in the world can agree upon. And the case of our planet and the taking care of our planet, this is something that fundamentally all human beings can agree upon. Now, how do we get there? Well, we communicate, we tell stories. And I'll tell you, from the civil rights movement here in America, we've learned that storytelling is fundamentally important to change minds. What does that mean? First, you have to have a thesis on that story. You have to have a concept that you're trying to translate and push over to the other people. And more importantly, you're trying to win hearts and minds. That's how you do it. What is the important story to tell? Our humanity, our uniqueness, and our unique purpose in life to take care of ourselves in a manner that is fitting to us. The question of Alex, there's a bad image about Islam. Of course there is a bad image about Islam. Turn on the TV any day and you'll see Muslims being blamed for bombings, Muslims who are doing shootings, Muslims who are doing beheadings. This is something that constantly is in the media, that basically changes people's hearts and minds because they don't do it in context. The number one people extremists kill in the Muslim world is Muslims. The most people extremists have killed in the Muslim world is Muslims. But you will not hear that. For if as a non-Muslim, all you're seeing is Muslims killing non-Muslims. But that's a slight minority compared to how many Muslims have been killed in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Somalia, in Yemen, in Nigeria, by these fundamentalist extremist people. It is fundamentally killing us, a lot of us, more than it is killing more non-Muslims. Now, the second question he asked is, maybe if we talk about the similarities of religion. In the Quran, we talk about Isa. Isa is to you known as Jesus Christ, the Son of God to you Christians. And as Muslims, we believe he's a prophet of God. We believe that Isa is a son of Maryam. Maryam is what we call her. Now, Isa was born out of a miracle birth, meaning that no man ever touched Mary. That's in the Quran itself. It says this woman was given a miracle birth to give birth to a special child who will guide the people, who will bring a book. The book that they brought was the Injil, which is considered the Bible. So understand this. We Abrahamic faiths share more in common. The difference between me as a Muslim and a Christian is a thin line. It's a very thin line. And the first person to ever grant Muslims refugee status when they were being killed and persecuted was a king in Ethiopia. A king in Ethiopia, and he was a Christian king. And that's the exact same words he used. He says the difference between us Muslims and Christians at that time, because the pagans wanted them back so they can kill them, was a thin line. Now understand this. We have a lot in common, more than what we don't have in common. And the second question is by Andrea, number 2. And the question was, what is the concept of evil in Islam? Well, evil is evil. You don't even have to be a Muslim to understand what evil is. You don't even have to be a believer in any God to understand what evil is. Murder is evil. Denying people opportunity is evil. Destroying our communities is evil. Killing for the sake of killing is evil. It doesn't matter what you believe in. This is fundamentally a human understanding. So evil, as understood to be evil, is understood fundamentally. The basics are all around the world. Even primitive societies have this concept of understanding. Now understand this. What is evil is killing for the sake of killing. Bombing for the sake of bombing. these things harm society. They harm our culture, and they harm our democracies, and they harm all our communities, whether we're democratic or not. And this is not acceptable. So you don't have to be a Muslim or a Christian. You just have to understand that certain things are inhuman. And thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, so we've heard quite a lot. We've had some excellent questions and some very good answers. I was wondering, does anybody have, I'm very conscious of the fact as we started a little late, probably it might be best to kind of carry on with some of these questions and getting some of Mohamed's wisdom and experience. But I'd also like to see if we can get some interaction going between the schools as well. And I think it might be very interesting for people to maybe think a little bit about your preparation for today's video conference. I'd really like to hear students talking about videos of Mohamed's that they've watched and what particularly spoke to them or challenged them or made them think or they have a question about. And perhaps we can get some discussion going between the schools and then get Mohamed to maybe comment on that and then do some questions later on. Does that sound like a plan? Okay, so students in the US, perhaps we could hear from 3 of you, perhaps? Thank you.
Hi.
The mic is right there, but that's everybody else.
Hi, my name is Christian. I'm a student from Otay Ranch. And I saw one of Mohamed's videos and they're pretty innovative. I think the cartoon idea is pretty good. It's a good way to reach out to people. But I also learned that the way Muslims think about, the extremism is on par with almost American thought, except Americans tend to view all Muslims as the enemy, which I think is unfair. But that's what I took away from his video, that more or less we're all the same. There's a very thin line. We're all stuck in the same mess. So that's what I had to say. Thank you. Bye.
Now that I have a chance to speak. Hi, my name is Sophia. And about the videos, I did agree. I enjoyed them greatly. I thought they were a good message. But I also have to agree with that other point, and I just wish that they were able to get out more easily and people could see the true message rather than thinking that all Muslims are extremists. And that's all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Selena. Ooh. Okay, I go to Otay, and in your videos you explain how like Muslims are like discriminated and stuff, and how they like get treated badly. But I agree with you. But it's not just only Muslims; it's also African Americans, and not just discrimination. It's also like how other races, they use the N-word and like they don't respect it. And yeah, I just wanted to put my perspective on that. I totally agree with you. I don't disagree at all. I just wanted to say that. And, oh, thank you. Bye. Have a nice day.
Okay, students in Mexico, do you have any reflections you want to make before we hear from Mohamed again? Thank you.
Hello, it's Andrea again. I thought the videos were interesting because they were cartoons. A lot of the videos that go around about social issues, they're normally with people, and I haven't seen a lot with cartoons, so I thought it was a good idea because it makes it more accessible, especially because it's something that people of different ages can relate to, and I think it makes like a stronger connection to better transmit the message. So I think that that was a good idea on how to make these videos. Oh, Thank you.
Hello, I'm Julian, and well, I have seen some of your videos, and I think that it's something really interesting because the fact that you're creating awareness about the misconception about Islam is something that I think that, for instance, it's really brave because I think even though we know that not all Muslims are terrorists, there is a serious problem of terrorism, misconceptions, and misinterpretations of the Quran. And I think that the work that you're doing is really brave, really amazing, and I really admire it because it's not easy to break the silence. And I think that what you're doing is helping not only the Muslim community, but all the communities around the world to find another point of view and another way to see the things. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Daniela, and I also want to say that I also like your videos because I think it is a great way to transmit what Islam, for example, is about, and not this stereotype that we have been seeing the last years. And I think it's great to understand finally what it consists your culture, and not just what media wants us to believe, for example. And I really appreciate your work. So thanks a lot. Bye.
Mohamed, can I ask you if you've got any reflections on what the students have said, and then perhaps we'll get some more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start with Christian. She said it's an innovative, good way, and he said most Americans tend to view Muslims as extremists. Well, I live in America. Most Americans actually don't do that. Most Americans believe to judge a person individually. And most Americans actually are decent, good people. And they have the same issues I have. We worry about how do we get our kids to school, do we get them to the doctor, how do we pay our taxes, and if I'm parking in the right direction when snow falls in Minnesota, you know? These are things that we worry about. So that is important. Sophia said it is easier to get out. Well, here's the important part. The extremists promote their propaganda. You know how they do it? Simple. One person creates a propaganda, 1,000 people send it to 10,000 people. And that 10,000 people send it to another 10,000 people. So I'm asking you to do the same thing. Go on to these videos, share these videos, because whoever gets their message out to the widest audience is the one who gets to shape a society. And that's what it is. That's all it's all about. Is whoever can get most people to buy into their ideas gets to shape society. So I expect you to be on my Facebook page and like me. And then also take the videos, whether it's gender equity or identity in Islam or issues such as Charlie Hebdo, free speech, and promote it. Share it with your friends. Ask your friends to share it with others. That's how we win. And Selena talked about discrimination. And there is discrimination, it exists. Islamophobia is something that is increasing within my society. More people are beginning to look at Muslims as suspects. And some people go according to even doing more than that. But here's what we know. In America, we've had the people like, heroes who've overcome racism, from Reverend Martin Luther King to even people who got elected twice, a black man as president, Barack Obama. That happened in a country. You can't not call this country racist. What you can call is there's some few individuals who might be racist, who might be discriminatory, but it will take all of us to overcome them. Basically, we need to shout them down and tell them their way of life is not our way of life. Our way of life is about inclusion. It's about joining together and building bridges. And that comes by speaking out. That comes in using your voice. If somebody is saying something negative about Muslims, well, you tell them, look, I know different. I think different. That goes a long way. That's how society is shaped. So use your voice. Do not think it's not worth anything. Your voice is fundamentally what shapes society. And how you choose to use it is very important. And if you stand against racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, homophobia, this goes a long way in society towards creating the society we want, where people are free to live life as they want to. And Kulan said, these videos create awareness that I am brave. Actually, I'm not really brave. I know a lot of activists I speak to from all around the world who are actually under death threats. I've received some death threats, but it's online, you know, from Al-Qaeda and Islamic State and Al-Shabaab. But it's nothing compared to people who are in Somalia, Libya, Iraq, who are trying to do the same thing. Them, they're getting killed for saying exactly what I'm saying. So they need your help. Reach out to them. Reach out to me. And that's very important. So it's not easy to break the silence. And there's no silence in my community. Majority of the Muslims believe in what I believe in. It's a minority. And what we're trying to get is get this minority off this track. Danielle said it's important that we transmit against stereotypes. The stereotype of a Muslim is they're about to blow yourself, or about to blow their community, or about to do something antisocial. That is a stereotype which basically has gained traction in the last 15 years. Again, media helps big time with this, because whenever they show a Mohammed, it is always in negative context. And if you do that for over 15 years, it tends to change people's minds. So employ your media to show positive images of Mohammed. Employ your media to show the humanity of Muslims. That is important, and that will go a long way. And in terms of why we use cartoons, simple. You kids like cartoons, don't you? So it's important. We use a medium that we can reach out to you. And my goal is to stop being a 40-year-old talking about my values and get kids like you to talk about your values. It's very important. You see, your struggles are not my struggles. My generational struggle is different compared to yours. Your understanding is not my understanding. So it's important to get your understanding out here. And we are working on new ways to do this. So it's important that we keep on doing this in the best manner we can, with the best ability we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. I think it's very interesting that you kind of finished there by talking about the students' values and struggles are going to be different, and that, you know, it's how they get those out there. So perhaps it will be really interesting to hear very briefly from students about some of the values that they feel that they want to show in their communities. So what are the things that you guys kind of struggle with? I think we've heard a few ideas so far. And what are the values that you want your communities to show? Mohamed's talked about his values and the values of his community and the values that he wants his community to demonstrate. I think it'll be fascinating to hear from 2 or 3 students at each school sharing some of those ideas, and then we'll take it from there. So students in the US, 2 or 3 of you, it would be great to hear you talk about the things that are important to you that you would like to use to transform your communities, because perhaps a powerful example like this will be the thing that you need to help you. Thank you.
It's Naomi. Sorry. So Mohammed, you talked about certain, like how people feel certain ways, and me personally, you know, with this 2016 election just being finished, I want to be as respectful as possible, but I believe that, Mohammed, you talked about how women get rights, like how women should have equal rights to men, and how Muslim women should get equal rights to men. I totally agree with you. But with this new 2016 election, with who we elected, I'm going to try to be as respectful as possible. But we elected someone who believes that all Muslims should be banned from the U.S. And you talked about how people are being suspicious of Muslims and how the person that we elected did not feel that women should have certain rights. And I was just wondering how you certainly felt about that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily, and I believe that many people we have many religions going around, and many people just focus on trying to be the right one, and I feel like there's no right religion. I believe that a God that walks me through life and helps me through everything, my issues and everything that I need in life, I believe in that. And I just try to pick up the good things about every religion because we all have the same values. Religions are like trees. The roots are the main beliefs like respect, and that's what all religions kind of focus on. But then they bring it up to the God that they have, and I just pick up the good things about all the religions to make up my own values, and that's what makes me me. And I agree with your thoughts because you have many good things that you want to make out of this community, and yeah, thank you.
Hello again, it's Adrian. So, Mohamed, you talked earlier about misinterpretation and generalization of groups, and I personally don't like it when people generalize certain types of groups. Like it goes both ways. Like one group will generalize the other, then the other group will generalize back, and I just generally just don't like that because it just displays the prejudice of people. And you also mentioned misinterpretation. I believe with our media sometimes misinterprets certain things on both sides, both in the liberal sense and the conservative sense. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm Sam. I'm back again. On what Naomi said, I feel that there was no good way to end that election. It was either Donald Trump, who thinks he should be president basically just because he wants to kick out all the foreigners and he has money and he thinks he should be president, or Hillary Clinton, who thinks she's qualified just because she's married to a former president and she feels that she should be the first woman, but I feel that she isn't a very good representation of women. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike, and I have a question for you. I know you've been talking about fighting extremism mentally and orally, but I want to hear your opinion on the physical conflicts going on in the Middle East and combating ISIS and the other extremism groups, and especially since Donald Trump's our president and one of his policies is putting more troops in the Middle East to combat these extremist groups. I want to hear your opinion on what, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm very conscious of time, so let's leave it there from the US and let Mohamed respond to some of those reflections and questions, and then we'll kind of go to Mexico as well. Thank you.
Well, the question of women's rights, Naomi says it's important because I made a video which talked about women's rights. Women's rights is human rights. We understand that over half the population in this world is women. Educate a woman, you've educated the whole family. This is a fact. This is another fact. Empower a woman, you end world poverty. That's another fact. And deny women opportunities and equality, that stagnates society. Now we use Islamic teachings and Islamic understanding to say so, that women's rights is human rights, because a woman has opportunity. We may not be seen as equals in the Quran. The man is more superior. But at the end of the day, when it comes to opportunity, a woman can become anything she wants to become in the Muslim world. And I mean anything she wants to become in the Muslim world. That's very important. We tell our daughters that. In Nigeria today, 1 million kids like your age group are not going to school because of Boko Haram. They don't believe girls should get educated. They actually kidnap girls from high schools. And that's something that's fundamentally wrong with that. As Muslims don't believe in that, and we want our kids to not believe in that, especially our boys not to believe in that. So women's right is human rights, and Average Mohammed will always promote that. Second, Emily said about God. She talked about God and her understanding of God. We people of faith who believe in a faith, we believe in an awesome God. I mean, we believe in an awesome God. It doesn't matter how you come to believe that God, but at the end of the day, we believe in the mighty power of that God. But we also believe in our community, and our community might have many gods, and our community might have many other understandings of lack of it or without it, or whether it's Buddhism, Sikhism, we're talking about various denominations within the Christianity or Islam or Judaism. This is important, but we choose to live together as a people. That is more important. That is also important, and the fact that we believe in God. Our God is a God of mercy. Our God is a God of grace, and is a God of humanity. That's what we believe in as Muslims, and we want to live in a pluralistic society. And regarding the next question, which was Well, what just happened?
No, you're still good. You're still good. We can still see and hear you.
Okay. Regarding the next question, misinterpretation and misrepresentation. Well, religion misunderstood is poisonous. And when we promote the right aspects of it, we end up promoting our community. In terms of misrepresentation, well, that changes with you. You can do something about it personally. Speak good of others. Speak good of other community. Reach out to other communities. Say hi. Engage other people. Go beyond your comfort zone. That's important. And regarding politics, I tend not to talk politics. I am a very partisan person. But understand this. This country called America has been around for 200 years. Our values has been around for over 200 years. At any given time, people are pushing or pulling at these values. And this time is no different. I believe that our country will do good, will stand for good, and will stand for values that promote good in humanity. That's something I fundamentally believe in because I believe in my country. And I believe that this country is built on good people and the will of good people. Mike asked the question, how do we go about doing this? Well, it's not about politics. Politics stands for, in this democracy, and I promote democracy, it stands with we, the people. We, the people. So we are the people. And if we are the people, then guess what? We have a responsibility within our democracy to do our work. We don't wait for our government to do the work for us. We do it ourselves. And that's what the concept of Average Mohammed got created. Because we want to do the work for ourselves. We want to promote our society. We want to protect our society. And we want to promote certain values within the society. And I'll say thank you on that. I don't know if you can still see me, but I've lost my feed here.
That's okay. We can still see and hear you, so don't worry. That's all cool. Sorry about that. So students in Mexico, I'm again still conscious of time. It will be great to hear from 3 or 4 people there sharing your questions or ideas, and then I'll ask Mohamed to reflect on everything we've covered, and thank you.
Well, hello, Alex again. I totally agree with you that we as a society are the responsibles to make the changes of stereotypes and destroy these stereotypes about Islam. But I also think that you just said that you don't want to mix with politics. But I really think that to make a change, we have to have like this path already going on. So I want to ask you, which actions do you think are good for Occidental authorities to, which action should Occidental authorities should make to look to seek for this change? And not also in politics, also in religious authorities. What should the Pope do? What should now President Trump should do? What should Peña Nieto, President of Mexico, should do? And what Occidental world should do to destroy this prejudice, these stereotypes, and this unfair image that a lot of people have of Islam? Thank you.
Andrea, I hope you're not getting sick of me. Well, this is a personal thing. I'm half American, and sometimes I have met people who think that like the U.S. is full of people who um, don't can't stand foreigners, or I've met some other people who think that oh the U.S. accepts everyone, blah blah blah. When I know it's very very mixed, that there's a lot of duality, and so I was wondering like sometimes I feel like it's important for me to try and explain so that people can understand. However, sometimes I don't quite know how to answer some questions that I think I should. Should I feel guilty about that, that I'm trying to show someone what something is like, even though I don't know the concrete answer, except that I have a feeling or an idea about it? What should I do in that case?
Mohamed, can I ask you to respond to those 2 points, because I don't see the mic shifting very quickly and we're rapidly running out of time. Thank you.
Talked about responsibility, whereby I say they don't mix with politics. The main reason why I don't mix with politics is because half the people, either for one person or the other half, are against that person. And what we talk about is humanity. And I've learned a hard lesson that basically you don't mix politics with activism. What action should we ask for change? For example, you say, what should the Pope do? I'm not the guy who's going to advise Pope Francis, but I already love the guy. I mean, he accepts immigrants, he accepts refugees, he talks about open societies, he is for change, and he's opened up his doors and mind for many things. What should President Nieto do? Well, Nieto is the president of Mexico. He should always promote Mexican interests and Mexican values. What should Trump do as a president? Well, again, I'm just an average Mohammed. I don't know if that relates well. What should Trump do? Well, he should be a president for all Americans. And we're hoping that he becomes president for all Americans. And that's important. And he might be the president for all Americans. We haven't seen how he rules. So keep an open mind on that. Andrea, she said the U.S. is filled with people, where the people say it's you're half American, and you're worried about people who think they're anti-foreigners and people who think they're pro-foreigners. Well, let me tell you the story of my immigration. I came to America 20 years ago. I had a bag and a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. And today I own a home, I work for a corporation, I have 4 beautiful kids who have access to healthcare, education, and opportunity. I have access to healthcare, education, and opportunity. I have citizenship, I have equal opportunity, equal rights. This is what America is about. This is the story of America. So tell your story. What the other half of you, which is American, what do you know about America? What have you experienced in America? What do you understand about American values? This is fundamentally important. Now what happens is my story is not a story that's unique. It's happening all across communities around this country with immigrant people. It's a great country we live in, this America. And the politics right now is toxic, meaning that people are at a level whereby they are not agreeing to disagree. Now understand this, fundamentally for democracy to function, we need 2 things. Number 1, civility. Be civilized and be polite. Have a different opinion, but you don't have to hammer it into other people's heads. And the second point is we have to fundamentally agree to disagree, meaning that you have a value and I'm against that value, but I disagree with it and I have a vote to vote against it. And that's where we leave it at. And whoever's value gets the most votes or gets the most traction ends up ruling over society. Now, doesn't mean you have to capitulate. It just means that you have to be civil. You have to accept others for who they are and what their values are. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very conscious of the fact we are practically out of time now, but I think it's always a good idea to share a few final reflections at the end. So what I'd like people to do is think about what you're going to take away from today's VC. When you go home this evening and someone says to you, what did you do today? and you're talking about this video conference, what is the one thing you're going to say you've learned, or that's made you think, or that's given you a question to answer, or has inspired you? I know I've certainly been inspired listening to Mohamed, but also listening to many of the questions you've asked. I think it would be really great to have some reflections before we finish up. And then when we've heard your reflections, I'll ask for a final reflection from Mohamed, and then we'll wrap it up there. So, I know that's not always an easy thing just to come up with on the spur of the moment, but I'm sure that it would be great to hear from some people in the States, and I know there are a lot of you, but we've only heard from some of you, so it would be great if we could have reflections from people who haven't spoken yet. Thank you very much. So, let's have them.
Hello.
Oh, don't worry, they can hear you.
Oh, hello. My name is Angela, and I was just gonna say like how it's like amazing how you like created this organization to spread awareness, but like also like how you created it very like creatively. Because like most people like when they look at a video about something that like that should be spread, it's like really boring. But like since you added like cartoons and pop culture, I think that was like a really amazing idea that you had like that creative mind to think about that. And I also think that like people like there's so many stereotypes out there like for every race, like not just for like Muslim people, like for like Asians, Mexicans, there's always going to be a stereotype of like that race. I think that people should be more aware of what they say and stuff like that. Oh, thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian, and today I've been really inspired because I've always believed in how you're not supposed to be judged by how you look, like the color of your skin or your religion or your ethnicity. I never really thought that it actually mattered, but I always thought of the values of how you act, what you say, and who you grew up with. I always believed in those values. And the fact that you supported strongly and made videos about this really inspired me, and it strengthened my values. And yeah, I really hope that you continue, and I will support you too. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tam, and from what I've grasped during this video conference is that you continue to fight the idea of extremism, and it's kind of scary sometimes seeing as how like the people in France or parents' friends got shot and stuff by the extremists, so it's kind of fear for your life as you get threatened and fighting this idea, because they could come after you if they think or get offended enough or whatever. So I appreciate and admire your service in fighting this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mac, and my real name is Mackenzie Tubayan, and I did have a question, but I guess now that question would intertwine with my thoughts for the rest of my life, and that is how we see the other side of this wall of violence, and like why would people commit certain acts in order to fulfill their needs, like at level of like just their beliefs in general, why they would fulfill these beliefs, and to commit certain like acts of violence like this, and I guess that's straying away from these colors of white that we are in right now, and to go like cross from these colors to colors of black, which is the other side of our views, like of how like Donald Trump right now, or these extremist groups would commit certain acts, and I guess the certain, I guess this question of why these people would commit such acts would always come in my head, and like Average Mohammed, you have made me think of how you have made me perceive of like how like what like all this would all these questions and thoughts would like I just questions and thoughts would make me make me go, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's always a good sign. It's the mark of a good video conference when we take away more questions than we came with. It really is. Thank you very much to students in the States. Let's hear some reflections from our friends in Mexico, and then I'll ask Mohamed to reflect on what he's going to take away from today's VC.
Hello, I'm Julian again. As a final reflection, I would like to say that I really enjoyed the video conference. I really enjoy all the questions from both sides and all the answers that Mohamed provided. But I think that the most important thing that I take out of this is that, as the name says, Mohamed is just an average Mohamed, and however he is doing something to impact the community, he's doing something that is making a change. He's breaking the silence, and he's trying to change the things that he believes that are not okay. So what I really take from this is that, as well as he is an average Mohammed, we here are a bunch of average high school students, son of the 21st century, that we are speaking about what we believe, what we think, as well as Mohammed. I believe that every single one of us, that everyone that has that wants to, that is willing to make a change, that wants to do something to change the situation that we're living, could do something like that, because at the end, we are, every single person in this world at first is just an average people. And it's the decisions that we take through our lives, as the one that Mohammed did, the one to help us to create the change in the community that we are living. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Anna, and I would like to say that I really like your videos, and I think that they are a great way for us to know your religion better and the true meaning of Islam. Because, for example, and I'm speaking for myself, I've never met a Muslim person, so I haven't had a true interaction with that community. So I think that your videos are a great way for us who don't really know that religion. We can have a better understanding of your community and your religion. And also I would like to say that what you say of racism and discrimination towards your community can also apply to us, because in your country, in America, there is also a lot of discrimination towards the Latino community and Mexican people. There are a lot of stereotypes, so I think that your videos can help those other communities and your world of understanding and being aware that there is another communities and other religions different from your own can help other communities as well. So thank you, and I really like your videos.
Hi, my name is Denise. Um, what I take from this conference is that it's important to know the person you're judging, because as well as Anita, I haven't met a Muslim. Well, I think yes, but no. And it's important to really to embrace the diversity, because if you don't know anything from a culture or a specific follower of a religion, you can't make you can't make a statement about a person. You really need to know everything, and I think it's a good idea about the videos that of Average Mohammed, because you can learn about what is really what is Islam about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to hear now. We've overrun our time slightly, so I'm afraid I'm going to ask Mohamed to reflect on those last few statements, but also the whole VC as a whole. And so, Mohamed, over to you.
Well, I'm an average guy, so when people tell me they're inspired and they appreciate and admire, I say, well, you know what? I appreciate that. But you know what I would really value? You going out there and doing the work yourself. Understand this. Violence against a community works when we give in. We should never give up against violence. We should never give up on our democratic values and principles. We should never ever give up on shattering stereotypes. The stereotypes of everybody. Every community, even the white folks have a stereotype about them. Now what happens is we need to destroy the stereotypes because they don't fit us, they don't define us, and they will never be us. And we should never give up on our humanity. That's very important. Look at another person, look at them through the prism of a human being. And that other thing is something we should all embrace is our diversity, our freedoms. These are very important to us. Do not think your voice does not count. That's very important. Your voice right now is very important when you speak it. Speak it civilized, speak it in a manner that other people can accept it. And more importantly, speak it politely. And hopefully you'll get more people following you. So that's the message that I'm sending over to you kids. Your voice matters. Now, discrimination. Well, I live in a great country. Discrimination and Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and all the good things out there, those things do have an impact and they do exist. But I also live in a country where Reverend Martin Luther King walked and Cesar Chavez walked and Obama got elected twice as president even though he was a black man. So understand this. It cannot stop you. Islamophobia cannot stop me. Discrimination cannot stop you. Whether you're a Mexican or you're an Asian kid or you're a Hindu kid or you're a black kid or you're a white kid facing other reverse discrimination, it cannot stop you. What you need to do is remember this. Keep this in your heart. It cannot stop you. It can't. It just can't. Because once you stop believing in yourself, that's when it can stop you. So do not stop believing in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe that you're worth something. Believe that you bring something to the table. And believe that no matter what happens, you shall overcome. That's my message to the world. In terms of anti-extremism, it is very simple. We are against it. We value our democracy. We value peace. And we will promote peace at all times, at any cost, including death threats and harm that might come my way. At the end of the day, it is to what principles are you willing to stand up for? I am willing to stand up for my principles and what I believe in. Because I believe majority Muslims already believe in this. And we need to give them a voice. And Average Mohammed is exactly that, giving them a voice, opening up avenues with other communities to understand us better. And more importantly, to build alliance, because together we'll overcome. It takes all of us, you, me, and them, all of us to overcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. And indeed, thank you, everyone. I just want to finish by reflecting on Naomi's first question, which is what can we do as students to combat extremism? I think we've heard a lot of very, very good answers to that in the way that we live our lives, in the way that we rise to challenges, and in the way that we can, just share some of those videos to make sure that our friends, the people we know, are able to have the same kind of inspiring experiences we've had today. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for those of you who've been so patient today as we started a little late. We're finishing a little late. I'm sorry about that. Thank you, everyone, for taking part. It's been a fantastic video conference and a real privilege to work with you all and to hear your questions and comments. Thank you very much, everyone, and particularly thanks to Mohamed for such a fantastic presentation and such a passionate and inspiring approach. Thank you, everybody. There we go. That's it for today, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Thank you.